you all this evening. And when Ray came to me with the idea for the program, it seemed so wonderfully dovetailed onto the larger conversation we've had within this congregation for the past now almost 2 years about food and Jewish approaches to food and healthy eating and mindfulness around it. So I wanted to spend just a few moments and tell you about some Jewish approaches to the idea of food and eating. And while Ray has asked me specifically to do some Reconstructionism, what I'm going to try and do is go through the way I, as a Reconstructionist, will look at this and then tell you a little bit about what our movement has to say about that as well. When we talk about food in Judaism, one of the things that comes to light when you look at our history, we talk about the Kabbalistic period. It was in that period between, say, the 10th and the 16th centuries where different ideas and symbols got elevated and different parts of our Jewish tradition, which are now so part of it, you can't even imagine it not being there. For example, Kabbalat Shabbat. All the stuff, Lecha Dodi, Shalom Aleichem, all that stuff didn't exist until it got put in there until around that period in time to elevate up that idea. Another major idea that was put out at the same time and related, when prayers like Lecha Dodi were composed, as part of that welcoming, one of the things that happened was they said, write different melodies to this song. If you write different melodies to this song, in fact, take general melodies out there in the world and bring them into the melody, then when you sing Lecha Dodi to the latest popular song you can find, you're going to elevate up a spark. You're going to return to God, to the divine realm, something special, the essence of which was supposed to be created. It's a redeeming act. And in fact, that's the word tikkun olam. A word we throw around, we use it all the time. But the first time it was used was by Isaac Luria, Ha'ari is what he was called, in Tzfat. And he said, wow, when you do things like return up the spark, you're tikkun, you're repairing olam, the world. Now let's talk about food for a moment. We're going to talk in Hebrew about the word Torah, the phrase rather, Torah b'gashmiut. The Torah of the body, the Torah of existence. And that has very much to do with your physicality. So, in a similar idea, the Kabbalists said, when you eat certain foods in a certain way, it unlocks these sparks in a wonderful way. Sometimes it's like when you take a piece of lettuce and you say the proper blessing, Borei Peri Ha'adamah, for the food that comes from the earth. Right? And you take a bite of it, that you're going to kind of remind and refresh your body about what that meant to be connected to this food that comes from the earth. That's really surface level. Other foods, like challah, and the one that I'm thinking of the most these days, haroset, have multiple layers of meaning, so that when we eat them, we're not just talking about sparks then. What does it mean to find something in its source, and it's organic, and it's been grown by hand, and we know that the sun that came down, and the farmer that picked it, and the person that drove it in the truck, and the grocer that put it on over here, and you that picked it up, or you went to the farmer's market, and all that process is done with perfect love. When we're talking about challah, and you're talking about haroset, now you're talking about a collective communal experience. Thousands of years of eating this food, and what does it mean to us and our bodies when we eat it? Lifting up a spark for sure at this time of year, but also joining in that spiritual kind of rite when we mix together the apples and the cinnamon and the dates and the figs, and we put it together with a little bit of wine. There's something going on within us as well. Torah b'gashmiut is that Kabbalistic teaching that said every time you said a bracha on your challah, you're returning a spark. And you're connecting yourself back into your people. So when we eat, we're mindful of our bodies. I forgot, I should have started actually at a Maimonidean point of view. What do I mean by that is, it's Rambam, Maimonides, who writes for us what I'll call the first whole food diet. I'm trying to think. I know Alice and Jeff were there at the class when we went over Maimonides' whole food diet, and it included asafoetida, which is a word that you can say in your. It's not a bad word. I keep telling my kids that asafoetida is a nice word. It's a ground up spice that tastes like garlic, right? Really strong garlic. But Maimonides said, eat in moderation, Eat only when you're hungry. Drink water an hour after you've eaten. And make sure that you have a balanced diet. I've seen all kinds of diets, paleos, and whatever, Atkins, everything else. But it seems that when we get down to it, that moderation, that eating really when you're hungry and as much as you need and not wasting, and making sure that the sourcing of your food is as holistic and as healthy as you can is good for you, good for your family, good for your body, and good for the earth, and all the people that are joined in it. Told them 5 minutes, and my Reconstructionist trip through what does it mean to eat and be healthy and be mindful. I hope that gives us a little bit of an opening tonight to what Mia is going to do in healthy, mindful, organic, and this way of eating in a way that will help us lift our bodies and lift ourselves up, and especially as we're coming towards a time of the year where I personally like to have more greens than matzah. Maybe it'll help us say that one too. All right.